A paralyzed firefighter met an alien in Montana, and what this extraterrestrial revealed about Jesus will shatter everything your church never told you. Daniel Brooks hadn't walked in years. Then a golden-skinned being touched his shoulder and whispered a truth that made him weep uncontrollably. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the quantum code hidden in Scripture for 2,000 years, the one that explains why Jesus could heal with a touch, and why beings from other worlds understand faith better than we do. This alien didn't come to save Daniel. It came to unlock what was already inside him. Once you see this connection between extraterrestrial consciousness and divine power, there's no going back to comfortable beliefs. This will expand your understanding of miracles, but it might cost you everything you thought you knew about God. If you're ready to face the truth that terrifies religious institutions, hit subscribe and activate the bell. Because what happened to Daniel Brooks the moment that being placed its hand on him will forever change how you see both faith and reality. Now, let me tell you how it all began on that stormy Montana night. Daniel Brooks was 45 years old when his life ended. Not literally. His heart still beat, lungs still pulled air, but everything that made him him, the strength, the purpose, the faith, all of it died the day that warehouse ceiling came down on his spine. 3 years ago. 3 years in a wheelchair in Bozeman, Montana. 3 years watching the world move while he stayed still. Former firefighter, former husband, former believer. The rain hit hard that summer afternoon. Daniel sat on his porch, motorized chair humming softly, watching gray clouds roll over the mountains. The kind of storm that makes you feel small, makes you remember you're not in control. He liked that feeling now. Being small meant less responsibility, less disappointment. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago. He didn't care, just stared at the horizon, at the pine trees bending in the wind, at the life he used to have before gravity and steel took it away. Faith was the first thing to die after the accident, not immediately. First came the prayers, desperate, angry prayers. God, please, I saved people. Doesn't that count for something? But heaven stayed silent. Physical therapy failed. Hope faded. And eventually Daniel stopped asking. If God existed, he'd forgotten about Daniel Brooks. The lightning came without warning, a flash so bright it turned the world white. Daniel flinched, blinking hard. When his vision cleared, he saw it, a sphere of golden light descending slowly over the wet field beyond his property. Not lightning, something else. His rational mind tried to explain it. Ball lightning, military flare, hallucination from too much isolation. But his body knew better. His hands gripped the wheelchair armrests. His heart hammered against his ribs. Something impossible was happening. The sphere touched down in the clearing, maybe 200 yards from his porch. No sound, no explosion, just light, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The rain seemed to bend around it, as if even water recognized something sacred. Daniel should have gone inside, should have called someone, should have done anything except what he did next. He moved his chair forward, down the ramp, across the muddy grass, wheels struggling against the wet ground. But something pulled him, not physically, deeper than that, like a voice that spoke directly to the part of him that still remembered how to hope. The air changed as he got closer. Sharp smell, ozone and heat, the kind of smell that comes before a wildfire, before everything burns clean. His skin tingled. His dead legs felt something. Not movement, not yet, but awareness, like they were waking up from a long sleep. The sphere began to open, not like a door, like a flower blooming in reverse. Light folded back on itself, and from inside stepped a figure, human-shaped, but not human. The being was tall, maybe 6'5", with skin that gleamed like polished gold, not painted, not a suit. The color came from within, as if light lived beneath the surface. Eyes impossibly blue, deep as Montana sky. And when those eyes looked at Daniel, he felt seen for the first time in years. Truly seen. The being didn't speak, didn't need to. It crossed the clearing in smooth, deliberate steps. Rain passed through it without landing. Or maybe the rain was afraid to touch something so pure. Daniel's throat closed, fear and wonder mixing into something he had no name for. The being stopped in front of his wheelchair, looked down with expression Daniel could only describe as tender, like a father seeing his son after a long absence, like coming home. Then it reached out and placed one golden hand on Daniel's shoulder. Heat exploded through his body. Not burning, not painful, but alive. So alive it hurt in the best way possible. The heat traveled down his spine like water finding its path, reaching places that had been cold and silent for 3 years. Daniel gasped. His back arched. Every nerve ending screamed awake, and then he felt them. His legs, not numb, not dead, but present, real, responding to his thoughts like they'd never stopped working. Daniel looked down, tears already blurring his vision, and watched his right foot move. Just a twitch, just a small rotation of the ankle. But it moved. He screamed, not from pain, from something bigger than pain, from the death of death itself, from the impossible becoming possible, from God, if God existed, finally answering. The being's hand stayed on his shoulder, steady, grounding, and in Daniel's mind, clear as his own thoughts, came a voice. Your body is the echo of what you believe. Daniel tried to speak, to ask what that meant, to ask who this being was, to ask if he was dreaming or dying or both, but his throat wouldn't work. Only tears worked, only the shaking in his hands and the growing warmth in his legs. The golden being smiled, small, sad, beautiful, and the real miracle was just beginning. Daniel couldn't stop staring at his legs. 3 years. 3 years of nothing. And now they were waking up like they'd just been sleeping, like the universe had hit snooze and finally decided it was time. The warmth spread in waves, soft pulses moving through muscle that had forgotten how to work, up his calves, through his thighs, into his hips. Each wave dissolved something, not just paralysis, but the memory of it, the certainty that he'd never walk again. That certainty was dying, and Daniel was terrified of hoping. He moved his left foot. It obeyed. Toes curled, ankle rotated. The simple movements felt like miracles, were miracles. His breath came in short gasps, half sob, half laugh. The being watched in silence. Compassionate silence, the kind that doesn't need to fill space with words. A light surrounded them, white and pure, not harsh like hospital lights or sharp like lightning. This light felt warm, felt safe, like being wrapped in something that loved you before you were born and would love you after you died. Daniel blinked through tears. What's happening to me? The voice came again, not through his ears, through his mind, direct and clear. Love reorganizes matter. I don't understand. You will. The being knelt beside the wheelchair. Up close, Daniel could see its face more clearly, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with features and everything to do with presence, like looking at something that had never known fear or hate or doubt. Who are you? Daniel whispered. Not a god, not an angel, a messenger. Messenger of what? Of what you forgot. The being placed its other hand on Daniel's chest, right over his heart, and Daniel felt it, a vibration deep inside. Not physical, deeper. Like his soul was a tuning fork and someone had finally struck the right note. Images flooded his mind, not memories, visions. He saw himself walking, saw himself standing tall without pain, saw himself whole and healed and free. But these weren't fantasies. They felt real, more real than the wheelchair, more real than the 3 years of suffering. This is truth, the voice said. Your body forgot, but truth remains. The doctors said, doctors see what was, faith sees what is. Daniel's heart pounded, not from fear anymore, from something else, something huge trying to break free inside him. Faith? I don't have faith, not anymore. God abandoned me. The being tilted its head. Those blue eyes held oceans. God never left. You stopped listening. Because he stopped answering, he answered. You didn't recognize the language. Daniel started to argue, but the warmth in his legs intensified. He gasped. The sensation was overwhelming, like every cell was remembering how to be alive, how to move, how to serve the spirit inside instead of imprisoning it. What language? He breathed. Feeling, not thinking, not hoping, feeling. The being stood and pointed at the wet ground, at the dead grass crushed beneath Daniel's wheelchair. It reached down and touched a single blade. Green spread from its fingertip like ripples on water. The dead grass straightened. Color returned. Life returned. In seconds, what had been brown and dying was vibrant and whole. Daniel stared. How? Nothing is dead, only disconnected from love. That's not possible. You're sitting in a wheelchair 3 years after doctors said you'd never walk. What's possible? Daniel touched his legs again, ran his hands over thighs that could feel his touch, pressed fingers into muscle that responded. The evidence was undeniable. Something impossible was happening. No, not impossible. Beyond what he'd been taught was possible, but real, happening, here, now. I don't understand any of this, he said. You create with what you feel. Your body obeys your heart, not your logic. The wind died, the rain stopped. The only sound was Daniel's breathing and the soft hum of the golden light surrounding them both. Above, clouds parted. Stars appeared, thousands of them, millions. The universe watching this one moment in this one clearing in Montana. Daniel looked up at those stars, felt something shift inside his chest. A wall he'd built brick by brick over 3 years began to crack. Is this real? His voice broke. Please tell me this is real. The being placed both hands on Daniel's face, gently, the way you'd hold something precious and fragile. You're real. Love is real. Healing is real. Everything else is just forgetting. Tears streamed down Daniel's face, hot and fast. He'd held them back for so long, held back everything. But now it was all flooding out. The grief, the rage, the loneliness, the fear that he'd been abandoned by God and by himself. The being leaned close, forehead almost touching Daniel's. The miracle is not that you're healing. The miracle is that you're remembering what you are. What am I? Loved, powerful, eternal. The golden light exploded brighter, and Daniel Brooks began to believe again. The being stepped back, and Daniel could finally see it fully. Human-shaped, yes. But something about the proportions was off. Too graceful, too perfect. Like watching a dancer who'd been practicing for 1,000 years, every movement deliberate, every gesture carrying meaning. The golden skin seemed to breathe light, not reflecting it, generating it, as if the being's body was just a container for something that couldn't be contained. Those blue eyes held depth that made Daniel dizzy when he looked too long. What are you? Daniel asked again. The voice returned to his mind, gentle but absolute. A messenger. Nothing more, nothing less. Messenger from where? From the place you call heaven. But that word doesn't mean what you think. Daniel's hands trembled on the wheelchair armrests. His legs still tingled with warmth and new sensation. He could wiggle his toes, could feel the wet ground beneath his feet through his shoes. After 3 years of nothing, it was almost too much sensation. Are you an angel? If that word helps you understand, use it. But I'm not what your churches painted on ceilings. Then what? The being pointed upward at the stars, then touched its own chest, then pointed at Daniel's heart. We're the same. Different forms. Same source. I don't understand. The kingdom is here. The being touched Daniel's chest again. Not up there. Not after you die. Here. Now. Inside you. Inside everyone. Daniel felt something crack open in his mind. A possibility he'd never considered. His whole life, he'd been taught that heaven was somewhere else. Somewhere you went after being good enough. Somewhere distant and unreachable. But this being was saying something different. The air shimmered behind the golden figure. Daniel blinked, trying to focus. The shimmer took shape, became form, became a presence so overwhelming that Daniel's breath caught in his throat. A figure made of pure white light stood behind the messenger. Not solid, not physical, but more real than anything Daniel had ever seen. The light figure radiated compassion so intense it felt like weight, like gravity pulling at Daniel's soul instead of his body. And Daniel knew. He knew without being told, without needing explanation. This was Jesus. Not Jesus from the paintings, not Jesus from the crucifix, but Jesus as pure consciousness, as love made visible, as the truth beneath all the stories and doctrines in 2,000 years of human interpretation. Daniel fell forward out of his wheelchair, not because his legs gave out. They were stronger now, pulsing with new life. He fell because his body couldn't hold what his spirit was feeling. He hit the wet ground on his knees, knees that could feel pain again, feel pressure again, feel anything again, and he wept. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from a place he didn't know existed. The light figure didn't speak, didn't move, just emanated presence. Pure, unconditional, overwhelming love. The kind of love that sees every mistake you've ever made and loves you anyway. The kind that knows your darkest thoughts and holds you closer. Daniel couldn't look directly at it. Too bright, too much. But he felt it. God, did he feel it? The golden messenger spoke again. He is the master of frequency. Frequency? Daniel could barely form words. Vibration, energy, consciousness, the tools of creation. He understood them perfectly. I can't. Faith is what moves the universe. Not hoping, not wishing, knowing, feeling, being certain at a level deeper than thought. The white light moved closer. Daniel felt it approach like you feel sunrise on your face. Warmth, light, life. The figure reached out, if something made of light can reach, and touched Daniel's chest, right over his heart. Images exploded through Daniel's mind. His whole life in seconds, every moment, every choice, every failure. The warehouse fire, the ceiling collapse, the hospital, the divorce, the drinking, the rage at God, the slow death of hope. All of it played in fast forward while the white light touched him. And with each image came understanding. Not judgment, understanding. He saw how his guilt had kept him paralyzed more than his spine, how his rage had built walls around his heart thicker than any physical injury, how he'd blamed God for abandoning him when he was the one who'd stopped listening. Love forgives everything, the messenger's voice said, including yourself. Daniel's chest heaved with sobs. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. The white light pulsed, warm, accepting, and Daniel felt it then. Forgiveness. Real forgiveness. Not the kind you ask for in church while still carrying the guilt, but the kind that erases the debt completely. That makes it like the mistake never happened. That restores you to who you were before you fell. His heart cracked open. All the pain he'd been carrying for 3 years poured out like poison from a wound. And where the pain left, something else filled the space. Something clean and new and impossibly light. Peace. Not the absence of problems. Not the numbing of emotions. But deep cellular peace. The kind that comes from knowing, truly knowing, that you're loved beyond measure. That you always were. That you always will be. Daniel's sobs quieted. His breathing steadied. He stayed on his knees, hands pressed into the wet earth, feeling the ground beneath him for the first time in 3 years. The white light began to recede, slowly, gently, like a tide pulling back from shore. Don't go, Daniel whispered. Please don't go. I never left, came a voice. Not the messenger's voice. Something deeper. Something that spoke in a language before words existed. I'm always here. You just forgot how to see. The light faded until only the golden messenger remained. Daniel looked up at the being, tears still streaming. Was that really him? That was consciousness operating at the frequency of pure love. Your religions call it Christ. We call it home. Will he come back? He never left. He lives in every heart that remembers what love is. Daniel sat back on his heels, his legs folded beneath him naturally, easily, like they'd never stopped working. He looked down at them in wonder. Everything I was taught, he started, was incomplete, not wrong, incomplete. The message was simplified so much it lost meaning. What's the real message? The messenger knelt beside him, eye to eye now, equal to equal. You are divine, you always were. Jesus came to remind you, not to save you from yourself, to wake you up to yourself. The words settled into Daniel like seeds in soil. He was divine, not broken, not abandoned, not a sinner waiting for rescue. Divine. The rain had stopped completely. The night air smelled clean, fresh, like the world itself had been baptized. Daniel Brooks knelt in the mud and felt his faith return. Not the old faith, not the small faith that begged and pleaded. A new faith, certain, unshakable, alive. Daniel's mind raced, trying to hold onto logic. I need to understand, he said, his voice shaking. What's happening to me isn't possible. Medically, scientifically, it can't be. The golden messenger tilted its head. Something like amusement flickered in those deep blue eyes. Science describes what is, but limits itself to what it can measure. Can you measure love? No, but yet love is the most powerful force in existence. More powerful than any nuclear reaction. More fundamental than gravity. Daniel looked at his legs again, bent them, straightened them. The muscles responded perfectly. No pain, no weakness, just smooth, natural movement, like the last 3 years had been erased. This isn't logical. Logic is a tool, but some truths are too big for tools. The messenger stood and walked to the edge of the clearing. Daniel watched it move, fluid, weightless, impossibly graceful. It knelt and touched the muddy ground with one golden palm. Daniel's breath caught. The grass beneath the messenger's hand began to change. Brown blades straightened. Green spread outward in a perfect circle like time-lapse footage of spring arriving. Dead vegetation came alive. Wildflowers sprouted and bloomed in seconds. What had been lifeless mud became a small garden of impossible beauty. How? Daniel's voice broke. Nothing is dead, only disconnected from its source. The messenger stood and gestured at the small miracle it had created. Your science says this is dead grass. We say it's sleeping grass. When you reconnect it to life force, to love, it remembers what it is. Daniel stared at the circle of green in the middle of the gray field. His rational mind screamed that it was impossible. But his eyes didn't lie. Neither did his legs. He reached down and touched his right thigh, squeezed the muscle, felt his own grip, felt the pressure of his fingers. After 3 years of touching dead flesh, the sensation was overwhelming. My spine was crushed, he whispered. Vertebrae shattered, spinal cord severed. The doctor showed me the scans. They showed you damage, but you are not your body. You are consciousness inhabiting a body. That doesn't make sense. Your body is a radio. When the radio breaks, does the music stop existing? Daniel blinked. The music comes from somewhere else. Yes. So my consciousness, my soul, it's the music, and love is the signal. When you reconnect to that signal, truly reconnect, the body remembers its blueprint, remembers how to be whole. The messenger walked back and knelt in front of Daniel, placed one hand over his heart. You create with what you feel, not what you think, not what you hope. What you feel in here, the hand pressed gently against his chest. This is the command center. This is where miracles come from. Jesus did this? Daniel asked. This is how he healed people? Jesus understood frequency, understood that love vibrates at the highest level. When he touched someone, he wasn't performing magic. He was raising their frequency, helping them remember wholeness, helping them reconnect to source. So the miracles were demonstrations. He was showing you what's possible when consciousness operates from love instead of fear. Daniel's heart pounded. Everything he'd been taught suddenly looked different. Jesus wasn't supernatural. He was natural, fully natural, just operating at a level most humans had forgotten was possible. Why did we forget? Daniel asked. Fear, separation, believing you're small and powerless. Those beliefs create your reality. When you believe you're broken, you experience brokenness. When you believe you're whole, you experience wholeness. That's why I couldn't heal before, Daniel said slowly, understanding dawning. I believed I was permanently broken. Yes. And now you're remembering what you are. The wind had stopped completely. The clearing felt suspended in time, silent except for Daniel's breathing and the soft rustle of the new grass growing at the messenger's feet. Daniel looked at the sky. Stars blazed overhead, clearer than he'd ever seen them. The clouds had parted completely, leaving the universe exposed and watching. This is real, he said. Not a question, a statement, an acceptance. This is real. I can feel my legs. Yes. I can move them. Yes. I'm going to walk again. You already are. Daniel's breath hitched. He looked down at his body, this body that had betrayed him, imprisoned him, defined his suffering for 3 years. And for the first time since the accident, he didn't see it as an enemy. He saw it as a partner, a vehicle, a temporary home for something eternal. Show me, he whispered. Show me I can do this. The messenger stood and extended one golden hand. Daniel reached up, gripped the hand. The touch sent warmth flooding through his entire body, not just his legs, but everywhere. Every cell singing with energy, with life, with possibility. The messenger pulled gently. Daniel pushed with his legs, and he stood, not quickly, not easily. His muscles shook with effort, his knees wobbled. His balance was terrible after 3 years of not using it, but he stood, on his own 2 feet, bearing his own weight. The wheelchair sat empty behind him. Daniel's legs trembled but held. His breathing came fast and shallow. Tears streamed down his face. He looked at the messenger, this impossible being from another world who'd given him back his life. Thank you, he choked out. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You did the healing. I just helped you remember how. Daniel took a step, then another. His legs protested. Muscles screamed from lack of use. But they worked. God, they worked. He walked 3 steps and stopped, breathing hard, laughing and crying at the same time. The messenger smiled, the first time Daniel had seen full emotion on its face. "Welcome back," it said simply. Daniel looked down at his feet planted firmly on the ground, at legs that bent and straightened on command, at a body that obeyed his will again. The miracle was complete, not just in his spine, in his soul, in his understanding of what faith actually meant, not hoping for intervention, but knowing, absolutely knowing, that wholeness was his natural state, that disconnection was the illusion, that love was the only thing real. He stood in that clearing under the Montana stars, a man who'd been dead learning how to be alive again, and he understood. This was just the beginning. The white light returned. Daniel felt it before he saw it, a presence so vast it made the air thick, heavy with love, heavy with something his mind couldn't name, but his soul recognized immediately. The golden messenger stepped aside, bowing its head in reverence, and Jesus emerged from the light, not walking, not appearing, just becoming visible, like he'd been there all along, and Daniel's eyes were only now learning how to see him. This wasn't the Jesus from Sunday school, not the pale, gentle man with kind eyes and a lamb. This was raw consciousness, pure divine energy taking form, just enough for Daniel to perceive it without being destroyed by the full magnitude. The light figure moved closer. Daniel's entire body vibrated, every cell, every atom, like his physical form was a tuning fork and Jesus was the strike that made it sing. He tried to step back, but his legs wouldn't obey, didn't want to obey. Every part of him wanted to move closer to this presence. "I can't," Daniel's voice cracked. "It's too much." The messenger's voice came gently. "He's adjusting his frequency, making himself smaller so you can bear it." "Smaller?" Daniel laughed, half hysterical. "This is smaller? You have no idea how vast he actually is." The white light dimmed slightly, became less overwhelming. Daniel could breathe again, could think again. The figure of Jesus solidified just enough to have definition. Tall, radiant, composed entirely of luminous white energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jesus raised one hand. Not in blessing, not in command, just acknowledgement. "Hello, I see you. I've always seen you." Daniel fell to his knees for the second time that night, not from his legs giving out, from the weight of being truly seen. Every secret, every failure, every moment of rage and despair and lost faith, all of it visible, all of it known, and all of it loved anyway. "I stopped believing in you," Daniel whispered. "I gave up. I was so angry." The presence didn't speak, didn't need to. Daniel felt the response directly in his heart. "I know. I never stopped believing in you." Fresh tears came. Daniel pressed his palms against the wet ground, grounding himself. His legs were strong enough to kneel now, strong enough to bear witness. Jesus moved closer still. Daniel felt the approach like dawn breaking, warmth spreading across his skin, into his skin, through his skin. The light figure knelt in front of him, this impossible being kneeling before a broken firefighter in the mud of Montana. A hand made of pure light touched Daniel's chest, right over his heart, and Daniel's life exploded through his consciousness. Every moment, every memory, but not like before. This time he saw it through different eyes, saw how the warehouse fire had been coming, saw his choice to run in anyway, saw the moment the ceiling started to collapse, saw his decision to push the young firefighter out of the way, saw himself crushed, but he also saw something he'd never noticed before. A golden light surrounding him the moment the debris hit, a presence protecting him from dying, from being completely destroyed. A love so vast it had cushioned the fall and kept his heart beating when by all logic it should have stopped. He'd never been alone, not in the hospital, not in the wheelchair, not in the darkest moments when he'd cursed God's name. Never alone. "You were being prepared," came a voice, not words. Pure knowing downloaded directly into his understanding. This happened so you could help others who feel broken, so you could show them healing is possible. The paralysis was on purpose. Nothing is wasted. Everything serves love. More images flooded his mind. His marriage falling apart, and he saw how it had already been falling apart for years. How the accident just revealed what was already true. How his ex-wife had been suffocating under the weight of his pride and his need to be the hero. How the divorce, though painful, had freed them both. He saw his drinking, his rage, his isolation, and he saw how each dark moment had been a choice point, a chance to go deeper into fear or to surrender into love. He'd chosen fear every time, and even those choices had been held in compassion. Even those choices had been teaching him something essential. You had to break completely, the knowing continued, so you could rebuild from truth instead of ego. Daniel's chest heaved with sobs, not from pain anymore, from relief, from understanding that his suffering hadn't been punishment, it had been preparation. I blamed you, he whispered to the light. I know. I said terrible things. I know. I wanted to die. I know. And I held you through all of it. The light hand pressed more firmly against Daniel's heart, and something inside him, something hard and calcified and ancient, cracked open. Guilt poured out, rivers of it. Guilt over the divorce, over failing as a husband, over his rage at God, over giving up, over every moment he'd been less than the man he wanted to be. And with each wave of guilt that poured out, love poured in. Unconditional, absolute, unwavering love. You are forgiven, the knowing said. You were always forgiven. You just needed to forgive yourself. I don't know how, Daniel choked out. Yes, you do. You're doing it right now. And Daniel realized it was true. The guilt was leaving. The shame was dissolving. In its place grew something clean and new, something that felt like the person he'd been before life taught him to be small, before fear taught him to protect himself, before pain taught him that faith was dangerous. He was being reborn. Jesus stood, the white light pulling back slightly. The intensity lessened, but the love remained. Daniel could look at him now without feeling like he'd be consumed. The messenger spoke. He came to teach dominion. Dominion? Daniel wiped his eyes. Not over others. Over yourself. Over fear. Over the illusion of separation from God. Jesus raised both hands. Light poured from his palms, not blinding now, but warm. Visible streams of golden white energy that flowed into Daniel's body. Daniel gasped. The energy filled him like water filling a vessel. Into his legs. Into his spine. Into every cell that had forgotten how to work properly. But more than physical healing, this was something deeper. This was remembering. Remembering that his body was just a temporary form, that his consciousness was eternal, that he was, had always been, connected to the infinite source of all creation. This is what I taught, came the knowing. Not religion, not rules, not separation. Unity, power, love as the fundamental force of reality. They made you into something to worship, Daniel said, understanding flooding him. I came to show you what's possible. They turned me into a barrier between you and God. But there is no barrier. There never was. The light began to recede, slowly, gently. Don't go, Daniel said. Please. I'm not going anywhere, Jesus communicated. I live in you now. I always did. You just couldn't see it. The white light faded until only the golden messenger remained, standing beside Daniel in the quiet clearing. Daniel stayed on his knees, breathing hard, feeling fundamentally altered, like his DNA had been rewritten, like every cell in his body now carried a new instruction. Remember who you are. The messenger helped him to his feet. Daniel stood steady this time, strong. His legs held him without trembling. What do I do now? He asked. You live, you love, you show others what's possible. Daniel looked at his hands. They were glowing slightly. Faint golden light like the messenger's pulsed just beneath his skin. What's happening to me? You're waking up, finally waking up. The stars overhead blazed brighter. The universe itself seemed to be celebrating, and Daniel Brooks stood in the mud of Montana, a man transformed, understanding for the first time what faith actually meant, not believing in something distant, but knowing something intimately true. The golden messenger walked to the edge of the clearing. Daniel followed, his steps growing more confident with each movement. His legs felt strong now, not just functional, strong, like they'd never been broken. I need to understand, Daniel said. What was Jesus really teaching? The messenger turned, those blue eyes holding infinite patience. He taught self-mastery, not in the way your ego wants control, in the way consciousness commands reality. That sounds like magic. No, Physics. Quantum physics your science is only beginning to understand. Daniel ran a hand through his wet hair. His mind struggled to hold these concepts, but his body understood. His body had just experienced the impossible becoming possible. How did he do it? The healings, the miracles, faith. Everyone says that, but what does it actually mean? The messenger smiled, small, knowing. Your religions taught you faith is believing without proof. That's backwards. Faith is feeling the outcome so completely that reality has no choice but to match it. Daniel's heart skipped. Feeling? Emotion is frequency. Thought is frequency. When you align thought and emotion with certainty, not hope, not wishing, but certainty, you broadcast a signal, and the universe responds. Jesus was certain, always, completely. When he said, "Your faith has healed you," he wasn't blessing them. He was acknowledging what they'd done. They'd matched his frequency of certainty. They'd felt healing as already real. Daniel thought about his own healing, how the moment the messenger touched him, he'd felt something shift. Not hope for healing, not prayer for healing, but recognition of healing already happening. "I felt it," he whispered, "before my legs moved. I felt them whole." Yes, you remembered what wholeness feels like, and your body obeyed that memory. The messenger gestured at the circle of green grass it had created earlier. Matter responds to consciousness. Always. Your scientists know this, but haven't fully accepted it. The observer affects the observed. Thought collapses probability into reality. So when Jesus touched someone, he wasn't transferring power. He was reflecting back their own divine nature, showing them what they were capable of, helping them remember they were never separate from God. Daniel's throat tightened. "We're not separate. You never were. Separation is the lie your species bought into. The original sin wasn't disobedience. It was forgetting your divinity. The church teaches what keeps people dependent, small, needing intermediaries. But Jesus taught the opposite. The kingdom of God is within you, not in temples, not in priests, within." The words hit Daniel like lightning. His entire spiritual framework, 45 years of Catholic upbringing, cracked like ice under pressure. So God isn't out there? He pointed at the sky. God is everywhere, including in you, especially in you. You are God experiencing itself through the filter of Daniel Brooks. That's blasphemy, is it? Or is saying you're separate from God the real blasphemy? Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. His mind reeled. The messenger continued, voice gentle but firm. "Jesus said, 'I and the Father are one.' Not 'I'm special and you're not.' He meant all consciousness is one. You, me, every living thing, all expressions of the same source. If that's true, why don't we feel it? Because you were taught to forget, taught to see yourself as small, broken, sinful, needing salvation from outside yourself. But salvation doesn't come from outside. It comes from remembering what you are." Daniel's legs trembled, not from weakness, from the magnitude of understanding trying to take root. So the miracles were demonstrations of natural law, consciousness over matter, love over fear, connection over separation. Jesus wasn't doing supernatural things. He was doing deeply natural things that humanity had forgotten were possible. Walking on water, raising the dead. Matter is mostly empty space. When consciousness operates at high enough frequency, pure love frequency, it can reorganize matter at will. Your scientists call it quantum entanglement. We call it unity. It's the same thing. Daniel sat down on the wet grass, his strong legs folded beneath him easily. He pressed his palms against the earth, needing to ground himself. Why don't churches teach this? Some tried. They were silenced. The message that made people powerful was replaced with a message that kept people obedient. Jesus the revolutionary became Jesus the sacrifice. The teacher of self-mastery became the object of worship. But people need hope. They need truth. Hope is waiting for rescue. Truth is recognizing you were never in danger. Not really, not eternally. Your essence is indestructible, eternal, divine. Daniel felt tears coming again, but different tears now. Not grief, liberation. "My whole life," he said quietly, "I've been praying to something outside me, and the divine patiently waited for you to look within. The accident, the wheelchair, the suffering. That was, not punishment, preparation. You needed to break open. Your ego needed to shatter so your spirit could emerge. Daniel looked up at the messenger. How do you know all this? My species never forgot. We've been watching humanity struggle with amnesia for thousands of years. Jesus was one of many teachers sent to remind you. Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, different cultures, same message. Wake up, remember, and you're here because it's time. Your species stands at a crossroads. You can continue believing you're small and separate, or you can remember what Jesus actually taught, that you are powerful, connected, divine, capable of healing yourselves, your planet, your reality. The clearing hummed with energy. Daniel could feel it now, the vibration beneath everything, the frequency of life itself. What do I do with this? He asked. Who's going to believe me? The ones who are ready will feel truth in your words. The ones who aren't will call you crazy. Jesus faced the same thing. They killed him for it. They killed his body. Consciousness can't die. He proved that too. Daniel stood again, looked at his hands, still faintly glowing, looked at his legs, strong and whole, looked at this golden being who'd traveled across the universe to deliver a message humanity desperately needed. I was a firefighter, he said. I saved people from burning buildings, but I never saved anyone from their own beliefs. Now you will. Not by preaching, by being, by living, by demonstrating what's possible when someone remembers they're divine. I don't feel divine. You will. You're starting to. The messenger placed both hands on Daniel's shoulders, eye to eye, equal to equal. You are not broken. You never were. You're just waking up from a very long dream that you were anything less than magnificent. Daniel felt those words settle into his bones, into his cells, into the deepest part of himself that had always known this truth but had been too afraid to claim it. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me. Thank yourself for being brave enough to stay alive, to stay open, to receive this message when it came. The golden light around the messenger began to pulse brighter. You're leaving, for now, but you're not alone. You never were. Will I see you again? When you're ready for the next lesson. The sphere of light appeared behind the messenger, opening like a flower, beckoning it home. Daniel's heart clenched. He didn't want this night to end. I'm scared, he admitted. Good. Fear means you understand the responsibility, but love is stronger than fear. Always. The messenger stepped backward into the light. Remember, Daniel Brooks, you are loved. You are powerful. You are eternal. Everything else is just forgetting. The sphere closed. The light shot upward, silent and swift, disappearing into the stars. And Daniel stood alone in the clearing, a changed man, holding a truth that would either save him or destroy everything he thought he knew. He chose to believe it would save him. Karen Miller arrived at 8:30 the next morning. She'd been Daniel's home health nurse for 2 years. Twice a week, every week, like clockwork. She'd seen him at his worst, drunk, angry, cursing God and himself in equal measure. She expected to find him in bed or slumped in his wheelchair. Instead, she found him standing on the porch. Standing. Her medical bag hit the wooden steps with a thud. Daniel? Her voice came out strangled. What? How? He turned, and the smile on his face nearly broke her. Pure joy. The kind she hadn't seen in 2 years. Good morning, Karen. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Daniel Brooks, whose spinal cord had been severed completely, was standing on his own 2 feet. This isn't possible, she whispered. I know. He walked toward her. Smooth, steady steps. No limp, no hesitation. Karen's knees gave out. She sat hard on the steps, hand pressed to her chest. Medical training said this couldn't happen. Spinal injuries don't reverse. Severed nerves don't reconnect. But Daniel was walking. Karen, breathe. He knelt in front of her and took her hands. His touch was warm, steady, different somehow. Your legs, she managed. Daniel, your legs. I know. The scans. Your spine was destroyed. Was, not anymore. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Professional composure shattered. She pulled him into a hug, sobbing against his shoulder. 2 years she'd watched this man suffer, watched his spirit die by degrees, and now he was whole. How? She asked. How is this happening? Daniel pulled back, looked her in the eyes. He healed me. Who? What doctor? Not a doctor, a visitor, last night, from somewhere else. Karen's medical mind immediately cataloged possibilities. hallucination, psychotic break, but her hands were touching solid muscle. Her eyes were seeing functional legs. Whatever had happened, it was real. I don't understand. Neither did I. But I lived it, Karen. Something impossible became possible. She wiped her eyes, trying to think rationally. We need to get you to the hospital. Run tests. The medical community needs to know. They won't believe it. They'll have to. The evidence is right here. She gestured at his legs. This is bigger than anything. I know. But before we do anything else, I need to tell you what happened. All of it. They sat on the porch steps together. The morning sun warmed their backs. Birds sang in the pine trees. Daniel told her about the light, the golden being. The white presence he knew was Jesus. The healing that came not from external magic, but from remembering something fundamental. Karen listened, medical skepticism warring with the evidence of her own eyes. You're saying an alien healed you, she said slowly. I'm saying a messenger helped me heal myself by helping me remember what I actually am, which is divine. The word came simply, just statement of fact. Karen wanted to dismiss it, but she was touching his hand, feeling his pulse, strong and steady, watching him breathe in a body that worked in ways medical textbooks said were impossible. I need to call Dr. Morrison, she said. Your neurosurgeon. He needs to see this. Okay. And we need imaging. Full workup. Everything. Whatever you need. His calm unnerved her more than anything. The Daniel she knew would have been shouting, celebrating. This Daniel was peaceful, centered. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, dialed the hospital. When the receptionist answered, Karen's voice cracked. This is Karen Miller. I need to speak with Dr. Morrison immediately. About Daniel Brooks. Is there a complication? There's been a development. A significant development. Please, I need the doctor now. While she waited on hold, she reached out and touched Daniel's leg, pressed her fingers against the muscle. Nerve signals traveling from skin to spinal cord to brain and back. A circuit that shouldn't exist, but did. Dr. Morrison came on the line. Karen? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's... She took a breath. Dr. Morrison, Daniel is walking. Silence. That's not funny, Karen. I'm not joking. I'm sitting next to him right now. Full mobility. No pain. It's like the injury never happened. More silence. Then, that's medically impossible. I know. Spinal cords don't regenerate. I know. I'm coming there. Don't move. Don't let him do anything strenuous. 20 minutes. The line went dead. Karen looked at Daniel. He thinks I'm crazy. He'll understand when he sees. Will he? This breaks every rule of medicine. Maybe medicine needs to expand its definition of possible. They sat in silence, waiting. Karen's mind raced through implications. If Daniel could heal from this, what else was possible? What other permanent injuries weren't actually permanent? Daniel touched her shoulder. Warmth spread through her like sunlight through water. Karen, when was the last time you prayed? The question caught her off guard. I don't know, years. After my mother died, I couldn't. I felt that way too, until last night. And now? Now I understand prayer differently. It's not begging. It's remembering connection, remembering what we are. Karen felt something crack open in her chest, a door she'd sealed shut after too much loss. What are we? She asked quietly. Daniel smiled. Loved, powerful, eternal. Everything else is just forgetting. The words settled into her like seeds in soil. A car pulled into the driveway. Dr. Morrison driving too fast, gravel spraying. Here we go, Karen said. Daniel stood, walked down the porch steps easily, stood waiting, hands relaxed. Dr. Morrison got out and froze. His face went white. Hello, doctor, Daniel said calmly. I think we need to talk. And Karen sat on those porch steps, feeling her own faith, dormant for so long, beginning to stir back to life. Dr. Morrison ran every test he could think of. MRI, CT scan, nerve conduction studies, blood work. He poked, prodded, measured, and documented for 6 hours straight at Bozeman Medical Center. Daniel cooperated patiently with everything, and every test came back the same. Completely normal. Not healed. Normal. Like the injury had never happened. This doesn't make sense, Dr. Morrison said for the 10th time. He sat in his office. Daniel's file spread across his desk. Daniel sat across from him, calm. I know. Spinal regeneration at this level doesn't occur in humans. Ever. Apparently it does. No, it doesn't. I've been a neurosurgeon for 23 years. This doesn't happen. And I'm telling you it did. Dr. Morrison looked at him, really looked. Something had changed beyond the physical. Daniel radiated peace that hadn't been there before. What happened to you? The doctor asked quietly. I remembered what I am. That's not a medical explanation. No, it's a spiritual one. The doctor leaned back. I can't put spiritual intervention in your chart, then put spontaneous regeneration of unknown etiology. But doctor, you know something impossible happened. You can deny it or study it, but you can't unsee it. Dr. Morrison was quiet. Then, what are you going to do now? Help people. How? However I can. 2 weeks later, Daniel started visiting the VA hospital. He went to the spinal injury ward first, sat with veterans who'd lost mobility in Iraq, Afghanistan, training accidents, men and women in wheelchairs, staring at futures that looked like his past. He didn't preach, didn't promise miracles, just talked, listened, and when they asked how he was walking, he told them the truth. I stopped believing I was permanently broken. Some dismissed him, some got angry, but some listened with hunger that went beyond hope. A Marine named Rodriguez, paralyzed from the waist down, asked Daniel to show him how. They sat together in the hospital chapel. Daniel placed his hands on Rodriguez's shoulders. I can't heal you, Daniel said, but I can remind you what you are. You're not your injury. You're consciousness inhabiting a body, and consciousness creates reality. That sounds like bullshit, Rodriguez said. Does it? Close your eyes anyway. Rodriguez did. Now feel your legs, not try to move them. Feel them. Remember what they felt like before. Don't hope you'll feel that again. Feel it now, like it's already real. I can't. Stop thinking. Feel. The chapel went quiet. Daniel kept his hands steady, letting warmth flow through his palms. Not his warmth, something bigger. Rodriguez's breathing changed, deepened. I feel. His voice cracked. I feel something. What? Tingling. In my feet. I feel my feet. Daniel smiled. Don't stop. Keep feeling. They sat that way for 20 minutes. When Rodriguez opened his eyes, tears streamed down his face. I felt them, he whispered, because they're still there, still connected. You just forgot how to access the connection. Rodriguez wiggled his toes. Small movement, barely visible, but movement. He started sobbing. Daniel held him while he cried, said nothing, just witnessed. Word spread through the hospital fast. Within a month, Daniel was visiting 3 times a week. Not just spinal injury patients, anyone who needed hope. Cancer patients, stroke survivors, people with chronic pain. He never promised healing, never claimed special powers, just touched them gently and said, feel love, not pain, just for a moment. And people got better. Not everyone, not always completely, but more than statistics predicted. Enough that the hospital staff started calling him the miracle guy. Karen accompanied him on most visits. She'd taken leave from home health care to work with him full-time. Being around Daniel made her feel more alive than she had in years. You're glowing, she told him one afternoon. He looked at his hands. Faint golden light pulsed beneath the skin. Is it visible? Barely, but yes. They got in her car. Karen started the engine but didn't pull out. Just sat there, thinking. I started praying again, she said quietly. Daniel looked at her. Yeah? Not like before. Not begging. Just talking. Feeling. Like you showed me. And? It feels different. Real. Because you're listening to yourself. To the divine part that knows things your mind doesn't. Karen put the car in gear. As they drove through Bozeman, she felt the world differently. Like a veil had been lifted. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Morrison. Patient in 412 asking for Daniel. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Says she had a dream about a man with golden hands. Can you come tomorrow? Karen showed Daniel the message. He read it and nodded. Tomorrow morning. You sure? When they don't get better? I'm not responsible for outcomes, just for showing up, for reminding people they're loved. Karen looked at him and felt gratitude so intense it hurt. Thank you, she said. For what? For letting me be part of this. Daniel squeezed her hand. Warmth spread into her chest. You were always part of it. You just needed to remember. They drove through the Montana evening. 2 ordinary people carrying an extraordinary truth. And behind them, Rodriguez sat in his wheelchair, practicing moving his toes, hope blooming in his chest like spring after a long winter. Daniel visited the hospital every day now. Room 412 held a woman named Margaret Chen, 63 years old. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, the kind doctors whisper about in hallways, the kind where they stop talking about years and start talking about months. She'd had the dream 3 nights running, a man with hands that glowed like sunset, standing at the foot of her bed, not speaking, just present. When she'd asked the nurses if anyone matching that description worked at the hospital, they'd told her about Daniel Brooks, the miracle guy. He knocked softly on her doorframe. Karen stood behind him, medical chart in hand. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Daniel. You asked to see me?" Margaret looked up from her bed, thin, pale, eyes hollowed by pain and morphine. But when she saw Daniel's face, something sparked. "You," she whispered. "You're the one from my dream." Daniel stepped inside, pulled a chair close to her bed. "Tell me about it. You were standing there." She pointed to the foot of the bed, "just watching me. And I felt safe for the first time since the diagnosis, like everything was going to be okay. Maybe it is." Margaret's laugh turned into a cough. When she recovered, her eyes were wet. "I'm dying, Daniel. 3 months if I'm lucky. There's no okay coming." Daniel took her hand. Her skin was paper thin, cold. He wrapped both his hands around hers, letting warmth flow. "Can I tell you what I've learned?" he asked. "Please. Your body is just a radio. When it stops working, the music doesn't die. The music was never in the radio to begin with." Margaret's eyes searched his face. "You really believe that?" "I know it. I've seen it, felt it. The nurses told me about you, about your spine. My spine was crushed. Doctors said permanent. But I healed because I stopped believing I was just a body. Started remembering I was consciousness inhabiting a body. Big difference. So you think you can heal me?" No accusation in her voice, just curiosity. "No, but I can remind you what you are, who you are, what's real and what's temporary." Margaret closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. "I'm scared. I know. Not of dying, of leaving. My daughter, my granddaughter. I won't see her grow up." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "The body you're leaving. But you, the real you, you're not going anywhere. You're just changing form." "How do you know?" "Because I met Jesus. Not the painting, the real presence. And he showed me that consciousness doesn't end. Can't end. It just transforms." Margaret opened her eyes, looked at him with something like hope. What did he look like? Pure light, pure love. So much love it hurt. Like every good feeling you've ever had compressed into one moment. Was it scary? Terrifying. And the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. They sat in silence. Karen watched from the doorway, taking notes she'd never show anyone, documenting something science had no language for. "Can you help me not be afraid?" Margaret asked finally. "I can try. Close your eyes." She did. Daniel placed one hand over her heart, the other on her forehead. Warmth poured from his palms. Not heat, something deeper, the same energy that had healed his spine. "Feel the love," he said softly. "Not the pain, not the fear, just love. Remember moments when you felt loved completely, by your daughter, your husband before he passed, your mother. Feel those moments like they're happening now." Margaret's breathing slowed. Her face relaxed. "I feel it," she whispered. "That feeling, that's what's real. That's what continues. The love doesn't die when the body does. It's the most permanent thing there is." Tears leaked from Margaret's closed eyes, but her mouth curved into a small smile. They stayed that way for 20 minutes, Daniel holding the space, Margaret remembering what mattered, Karen witnessing something medical school never prepared her for. When Margaret opened her eyes, she looked different, lighter somehow. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For reminding me I'm more than this broken body." Daniel smiled. "You were never broken, just temporarily disconnected. But you're remembering now." He visited Margaret every day for 2 weeks. Each visit, the same practice. Feel love. Remember wholeness. Connect to source. The cancer didn't disappear. The scans didn't change. But something else did. Margaret stopped looking like she was dying, started looking like she was living. She laughed with her daughter, played games with her granddaughter, made plans for after, not after she recovered, but after she transitioned. Instructions, letters, videos, saying everything that needed to be said. "I'm not scared anymore," she told Daniel on his last visit. "I can see that. I understand now. This body is temporary, but I'm not. Love isn't." "Yes." Margaret squeezed his hand. "You saved my life. No, you're still dying. I know, but I'm not dying afraid. I'm dying awake. That's what you gave me. That's everything. She passed 3 days later, peacefully, surrounded by family. Her daughter called Daniel to tell him. She wasn't afraid at the end, the daughter said, voice thick with tears. She kept saying she could see light, that she felt loved. She said to tell you thank you. Daniel closed his eyes, felt Margaret's presence, not gone, just transformed. Still there, still loving, just in a different form. She's okay, he told the daughter. More than okay. She's home. After the call, Karen found Daniel sitting in his truck in the hospital parking lot, staring at nothing. You all right? She asked. She died. I know, but she's not dead. I can feel her. Still present, just differently. Karen sat beside him. That doesn't make medical sense. No, but it makes soul sense. They sat in silence as the sun set over Bozeman, painting the sky in golds and purples, like the universe itself was celebrating Margaret's homecoming. We're not saving people, Daniel said finally. We're reminding them they were never in danger. Not really. Not the parts that matter. Is that enough? Karen asked. Daniel looked at her. His eyes held the same golden light she'd seen the first morning after his healing. It's everything, he said. And Karen understood. They weren't in the healing business. They were in the remembering business, helping people remember what they'd always been. Loved, powerful, eternal. Everything else was just forgetting. 6 months after the Golden Messenger's visit, Daniel woke at 3:47 in the morning. The numbers glowed on his bedside clock. Same time he'd been waking up all week, not from nightmares, from something else, like an alarm set by the universe itself. He sat up in bed. The room felt different, charged, like the air before lightning. Then he saw it, golden light seeping under his bedroom door. Not artificial, not from any earthly source. The same light from that night in the clearing. Daniel's heart raced. He stood, easily now, naturally, and walked to the door. Opened it. The messenger stood in his living room. Same golden skin, same deep blue eyes, same presence that made everything else feel less real by comparison. Hello, Daniel Brooks. Daniel smiled. No fear this time. Just recognition. You came back. Did you doubt I would? No. I've been feeling you. Every day, every healing. You've been there, haven't you? Always, not intervening, just witnessing. You've done well. Daniel moved into the living room. The furniture cast strange shadows in the golden light. I've been trying, following what you taught me, reminding people who they are. I know. You've helped hundreds remember, but I couldn't heal them all. Some still died. Some are still suffering. The messenger tilted its head. You think healing means fixing the body, doesn't it? Healing means remembering wholeness. Sometimes that happens in the body. Sometimes it happens in the soul preparing to leave the body. Both are healing. Daniel sat on his couch. The messenger remained standing, surrounded by its own light. Margaret died, Daniel said quietly. Margaret transformed. Is there a difference? Death is what happens to bodies. Transformation is what happens to consciousness. She's not gone, just operating at a different frequency now. I feel her sometimes, like she's still around. Because she is. Death is an illusion, a costume change. The actor remains. Daniel rubbed his face. Why did you come back tonight? To answer the question you've been asking. Which question? Whether Jesus will return. Daniel's breath caught. It was true. He'd been wondering, every night, every prayer, if that white light presence would appear again, if the world would see what he'd seen. Will he? Daniel asked. The messenger's eyes held infinite compassion. He never left. But the second coming, the Bible says, the second coming isn't an event. It's an awakening. Jesus doesn't return to a place. He returns to consciousness, to awareness, to hearts that remember. I don't understand. The messenger moved closer, sat beside Daniel on the couch. The first time it had ever lowered itself to his level. Jesus taught that the kingdom is within, not someday, not after death, now, here, inside every person. His return means humanity waking up to that truth, remembering their divine nature, claiming their power to create, to heal, to love, at the frequency he demonstrated. So he's not coming back in physical form. He's in physical form every time someone operates from pure love, every time someone heals from compassion instead of ego, Every time someone remembers, they're divine. That's Christ consciousness returning, not in one body, in millions. Daniel felt tears coming. So what I've been doing is the second coming. You, Karen, Rodriguez, Margaret before she transitioned. Everyone who remembers and helps others remember. That's Jesus returning. Through you, through everyone who chooses love over fear. The room pulsed with golden light. Daniel felt it entering his chest, his cells, his consciousness. Why me? He asked. Why did you heal me specifically? Because you were broken enough to be open, desperate enough to receive, and strong enough to carry the message forward. We don't choose the qualified, we qualify the chosen. Who's we? Messengers like me, consciousness operating at higher frequencies, watching humanity struggle to remember what it forgot, occasionally intervening when someone's ready, when the time is right. Are there others? Other people you visited? Thousands. Across your history, most forgot. Some remembered and became teachers. Buddha, Muhammad, Lao Tzu, Francis of Assisi, countless others whose names you don't know, all taught the same message in different languages. Wake up, remember, love. Daniel stood, walked to his window. Dawn was breaking over the Montana mountains, pink and gold, beautiful and ordinary and miraculous all at once. What do I do now? He asked. Keep living, keep loving, keep reminding people they're divine. That's enough. That's everything. And you? Will you come back again? The messenger stood. Its light grew brighter. I'm always here. You just needed to see me physically once to remember. Now you'll feel me without needing the form. I'm going to miss this. Talking to you like this. We're always talking. You just learned a new way to listen. The golden light expanded until it filled the room. Daniel closed his eyes against the brilliance, felt warmth pour through every cell, felt connection to something vast and eternal and loving beyond measure. When he opened his eyes, the messenger was gone, but the light remained, subtle, permanent, woven into the fabric of the room, of his body, of his being. Daniel stood in his living room as dawn broke, understanding complete. He wasn't special. He was just awake, and his job was to help others wake up too, not through force, through example, through presence, through being so full of love that others remembered their own capacity for it. The second coming wasn't waiting to happen. It was happening now, through ordinary people living extraordinary truth, through consciousness remembering itself, through love returning home. Daniel started writing 3 weeks after the messenger's final visit, not because he wanted to, because he had to. The words burned inside him like fire, demanding release. Every morning at dawn, he sat at his kitchen table with coffee and a laptop and let the story pour out. He called it The Love That Heals. Not a memoir, not a self-help book, just truth, raw and simple. What happened that night in the clearing, what the golden messenger taught him, what Jesus had shown him about consciousness and matter, and the power of love operating at its highest frequency. Karen read the first draft and cried. This is going to change people, she said. Or make them think I'm crazy. Maybe both. Does it matter? Daniel looked at the manuscript on his screen. 147 pages of impossible truth. No, I guess it doesn't. He self-published it online. No agent, no publisher. Just uploaded it and waited. Within a month, it had been downloaded 50,000 times. Within 3 months, 500,000. People wrote to him. Hundreds of emails daily. Some calling him a charlatan, some calling him a prophet. Most just saying thank you. Thank you for showing us we're more than broken bodies. Thank you for reminding us we're divine. A woman in Ohio wrote that she'd healed from fibromyalgia after reading Chapter 6. A man in Texas said his depression lifted after practicing the feeling exercises Daniel described. A teenage girl said she'd stopped cutting herself because she finally understood her body was sacred. Daniel read every email, responded to as many as he could. You can't save everyone, Karen reminded him one evening. They were sitting on his porch, watching sunset paint the mountains gold. I'm not trying to save anyone, just reminding them they can save themselves. Is there a difference? All the difference. Daniel sipped his coffee. Saving implies they're broken. Reminding means they were always whole. They just forgot. The book spread like wildfire through the spiritual community, then jumped to the mainstream. A podcast host in California interviewed him, then another, then 10 more. His message, simple, revolutionary, terrifying to religious institutions, reached millions. "You're not doing miracles anymore," a journalist asked during one interview. "Why?" "I never did miracles. I helped people remember their own power. That's not something you do to someone. It's something you witness in them. But your spine was healed the moment I stopped believing I was permanently broken." Consciousness creates reality. I stopped creating brokenness. The body followed. Churches invited him to speak. Some wanted to embrace his message. Others wanted to debate it. Daniel accepted both invitations. Jesus taught self-mastery, he'd say from podiums and pulpits. Not dependence. He said, "These things you will do, and greater." Not "worship me and stay small." He came to wake us up, not put us to sleep. Some crowds cheered, others walked out. Daniel didn't care. Truth wasn't a popularity contest. Karen traveled with him now. Not as assistant, as partner. She'd become a teacher in her own right, showing people how consciousness affects health, how belief systems create or destroy well-being, how love, real love, unconditional and fearless, could reorganize matter at the cellular level. "We're not special," she'd tell audiences. "We're just awake, and anyone can wake up. It's not about being chosen. It's about choosing." 2 years after his healing, Daniel stood in a packed auditorium in Denver. 3,000 people, all wanting answers, all wanting hope, all wanting someone to tell them they weren't as broken as they felt. He walked onto stage without notes, just presence, just truth. "You came here looking for a miracle," he said, "but you are the miracle. You always were. You just needed permission to remember." The audience leaned forward, listening. "I'm not going to heal you. I'm not going to save you. I'm going to remind you that you were never in danger. Not really. Your body is temporary. But you, the consciousness reading these words, you're eternal. And the sooner you remember that, the sooner you stop being afraid of living." Silence filled the auditorium. Love isn't something you do. It's something you are. It's the frequency you broadcast when you stop protecting yourself from pain and start allowing yourself to feel everything. Jesus operated from that frequency constantly. That's why he could heal with a touch. That's why matter obeyed his consciousness. He wasn't supernatural. He was natural, fully natural, just awake. Someone in the back started crying, then someone else, then dozens. Daniel felt it, the shift, the collective remembering. 3,000 souls simultaneously recognizing something they'd always known but forgotten. "You don't need me," he continued. "You need to remember what you are, loved, powerful, eternal. Everything else is just a story you've been telling yourself." The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes, but Daniel wasn't looking at the crowd. He was feeling the golden light, subtle now, integrated, pulsing through his chest. The messenger was there. Jesus was there. Not separate, not distant. Inside him, inside everyone. The second coming wasn't an event. It was this moment, right now. Consciousness waking up to itself. And Daniel was just one voice in a chorus growing louder every day. 5 years after the healing, Daniel walked through the Montana fields at sunset. Same place, same golden light painting the sky, but everything different. His legs carried him easily now, strong and steady, no memory of brokenness remaining in his cells. Just wholeness, just natural function. He wasn't praying, just breathing, grateful. "Thank you," he whispered to the sky, to the earth, to the presence he now felt everywhere. "Thank you for breaking me open so I could find what was always inside." The field smelled of summer grass and pine. A hawk circled overhead. Life continuing its ancient dance, birth, death, transformation, rebirth. All of it sacred, all of it perfect. Karen appeared on the hill behind him, walking down the path to the clearing. She'd moved to Montana 6 months ago. They'd built a small retreat center together, a place where people could come remember who they were. "Thought I'd find you here," she said, reaching him. "Where else would I be?" "Good point." She stood beside him, both of them facing the setting sun. Rodriguez called. His daughter took her first steps today. Daniel smiled. He told the doctors it was impossible. They ran tests. His spinal cord shows complete regeneration. They're writing it up for medical journals. They'll try to explain it scientifically. Let them. Science will catch up eventually. They stood in comfortable silence. 5 years ago, Karen had been a skeptical nurse who believed only in what she could measure. Now she taught consciousness medicine to doctors across the country. "Do you think it's working?" she asked. "What we're doing?" What do you mean? Are we actually changing things, or just talking to people who already believe? Daniel considered. I think we're planting seeds. Some will grow now. Some will take years. Some might not grow until next lifetime. Doesn't matter. Truth is patient. Very zen of you. The messenger taught me that. Time is an illusion. There's only this moment, and in this moment we're either remembering or forgetting. That's the only choice that matters. A breeze moved through the grass. Gentle, warm. Daniel felt it on his skin and remembered the golden being's touch, how it had burned away everything false, everything small, everything that said he was less than divine. I feel him sometimes, Daniel said quietly. The messenger. Like he's still here. He probably is, just not in a form we can see. Yeah. The sun touched the horizon. Gold spilled across the mountains. The same color as the messenger's skin. The same color as the light that lived inside every human who remembered to look. Daniel thought about his journey. Firefighter to paralyzed to healed to teacher. Each stage necessary. Each breaking making him more open, more real, more capable of holding truth without needing to control it. You know what I've learned? He said. What? God never abandons anyone. We just stop recognizing the language he speaks in. We want burning bushes and voices from clouds, but he's in the silence, in the stillness, in the love that holds everything together. Karen nodded. Jesus tried to show people that, and they crucified him for it, because the truth is terrifying to people invested in staying small. Yeah, they watched the sun disappear. Darkness came softly. Stars emerged, thousands of them, millions, each one a reminder that the universe was vast and they were part of it, not separate, never separate. Do you think you'll see him again? Karen asked. The messenger? I don't need to. I carry what he taught me. It's integrated now, part of my cells, part of my consciousness. What did he teach you, if you had to sum it up in one sentence? Daniel smiled. Love is the only thing real. Everything else is just forgetting. Karen laughed softly. Simple. The truth usually is. They turned and walked back toward the retreat center. Lights glowed in the windows. 20 people were staying there this week. All of them broken in some way. All of them ready to remember they were whole. Daniel would sit with them tomorrow, touch their shoulders, look in their eyes, and remind them, you are loved, you are powerful, you are eternal. Everything else is illusion. Some would believe him immediately. Some would resist. Some would leave angry and come back years later ready to listen. All of it perfect, all of it part of the awakening. As they reached the house, Daniel looked back at the clearing one more time. For just a moment, he could have sworn he saw a golden light hovering there, pulsing gently, watching. He raised his hand in acknowledgement. The light pulsed brighter, then faded. Daniel smiled and walked inside. The messenger was right. The second coming wasn't an event waiting to happen. It was happening now, in every heart that chose love over fear, in every soul that remembered its divine nature, in every person who stopped waiting for rescue and started being the presence they sought. Jesus wasn't coming back. He was already here, in Daniel, in Karen, in everyone who finally understood. God never left. We just forgot how to see him. And now, finally, beautifully, perfectly, humanity was starting to remember.